This is actually based on a historical person called Fujiwara no Hidesato, but he's known in history as Tawara Tōda Hidesato. He lived in the 10th century in Japan. He was a real person, and he was instrumental in putting down a rebellion. But over time that story shifted a little bit and it got elaborated here and there and other things were mixed in. And so actually what we now have is two key sort of adventures that Hidesato had. And the first is where he's called to kill a giant centipede, and the second is where he defeats this rebel warlord who by this point has 6 body doubles and magical armor. So it's a really fun story, it's really engaging, it's got all the things you need: goodies, baddies, beautiful ladies, terrible monsters, and it's just a really fun collection to work with. We know from our archives that actually Chester Beatty bought these scrolls during his trip to Japan in 1917, and then he brought them to Dublin when he moved his collection here in 1950. But this set of scrolls is on display now because we're actually very fortunate to get a grant to conserve them completely. So this was a 3-year process of conservation sponsored by the Sumitomo Foundation in Japan, and the conservation was all carried out at a specialist studio called Restorient in Leiden in the Netherlands. The 2 conservators who worked on this, Andrew Thompson and Sydney Thompson, between them they've got more than 50 years experience of conserving Asian material specifically. The hand scrolls here tell a story, and you read them by opening the scroll and moving through the story. But that also means that they're quite complex objects. So in order to conserve them, which in this case means taking the paintings and the calligraphy off all their lining papers, relining them, remounting them, consolidating all the pigments, that's a very specialist task. So obviously we would only trust that to the best people, and Andrew and Sydney had them in their studio for 3 years, and today we can enjoy the results. What we see on display is only about half of the actual scrolls themselves. Each of these scrolls is about 14 meters long, and you read the hand scroll just like sort of turning the pages of a book. You open one section, you read the text, you move on to the next section. So actually what you get when you're reading a hand scroll is a very sort of physical exploration of the story, but actually much like turning the pages of a book, you never know quite what's going to come next. And the procession of all these fantastical creatures, these warriors, sort of as you turn through, must have just been really exciting. So that's what we're sort of hoping people can get a flavour of in the galleries.